One of my favorite works in the Metropolitan Museum of Art is the Bosco Real Villa Room. A Roman villa is a house where a Roman elite family and their servants or slaves lived, often 2 stories tall and containing many rooms, such as the atrium, or entrance hall, and the peristyle, or garden courtyard. This colorful bedroom, or cubiculum nocturnum, was once owned by Publius Vanius Sinistor and his family circa 50 to 40 BCE, and the frescoes, or wall paintings, of this room and others in the villa are considered to be some of the best preserved in the ancient world. It dates from the transitional period between the late Republic and early Empire, a switch that happened following the conclusion of the Civil War that began when Julius Caesar was killed in 44 BC and ended when Augustus became Emperor of Rome in 31 BCE. This cubiculum only remains because of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, which then caused mass death and destruction in the towns surrounding the mountain, such as Pompeii and Bosco Real, where this bedroom is from, but has preserved many ancient works for study today. Though less than 9 feet by 11 feet by 20 feet, the Bosco Real cubiculum seems much larger than it really is, which was a major goal of the second-style Roman wall painting, popular when the cubiculum was made. This work and other similar villa wall paintings, such as the gardenscape found in the then soon-to-be Empress Livia's villa, were meant to open up the room with paintings that were windows into other colorful, three-dimensional things. For example, the wall paintings of the Bosco Real room combine urban landscapes with towering architectural vistas on the side walls and rocky outdoor scenes on the rear wall. Open gates and doorways further convince the viewer that he or she could walk right into the scene, and the use of point perspective, originally thought to have been created much later during the Italian Renaissance, creates depth. One thing that immediately strikes the eye is the lack of people depicted in the fresco. Roman authors, such as Pliny the Younger, an author of letters to other prominent Romans in the 1st and 2nd centuries CE, found that living in a bustling city like Rome was detestable, often complained in writing of the constant noise, turmoil, and vice of cosmopolitan Rome, and instead lived in villas in the countryside. Pliny himself much preferred to commute from his peaceful seaside Laurentine villa, only 17 miles from Rome, where he conducted his business, than live in that cramped city. In his letter to Gallus, written towards the end of the 1st century CE, around the same time as the Mount Vesuvius eruption, Pliny described how he found an even more solitary retreat within his villa, in his garden summer house, which he loved because when he retired to it he imagined himself 100 miles away from his villa. This was especially valuable at the Feast of the Saturnalia, when every other part of his house resounded with his servants' mirth. Thus he neither interrupted his servants' amusement nor they his studies. He even criticized his correspondent Gallus for living in the city, calling him morbidly attached to town. Most Romans considered their country homes to be sacred retreats, and judging by the absence of people in the Bosco Real Villa Cubiculum, it is clear Publius Vanius Sinistor agreed that a town with no people was the most relaxing fantasy land of all. Also striking is the repeated motif of the Greek theater masks painted near the top of the cubiculum's walls. The Romans borrowed a great deal of their culture, myth, and artistic style from the Greeks, and the Bosco Real cubiculum is far from being the only work in the Met that reflects the Roman fascination with all things Greek. Indeed, many Greek works are only known to us through Roman copies, made to meet the high demand for Greek statuary to decorate Roman buildings, caused by the discovery of such works by Roman elite families and artists after the Roman Republic's conquest of Greece in 146 BCE. During the early Roman Empire, Roman art was even directly based on that of the Greek high classical art, since Augustus wished to equate his reign with that of Pericles in Athens. Also dating from the 1st century CE and found in the Met is a marble disc with 2 theater masks in relief. The male mask's face is drawn into a grotesquely wide smile or grimace, as are those in the Bosco Real room. Such discs, or ocelli, were hung in the peristyles, or courtyards, of the Roman villa, and often related to the god of wine and revelry, called Dionysus by the Greeks and Bacchus by the Romans, who was also the god honored by Greek theater productions. Both the Bosco Real cubiculum and this relief of Greek theater masks show the Roman preoccupation with Greece in art. The architecture shown in this room is so typically Roman. There are arches everywhere, a feature that was first possible during Roman times after their invention of concrete, and columns abound. As in a real Roman town, the buildings are close together, though perhaps much more colorful and unique than the monotonous blocks of residential homes that remain in cities today. Amazingly, the balconies jutting over some of the buildings that I find it hard to believe would really have been possible actually were. These both offered shade and shelter to pedestrians, and the walls below them served as the advertisement or bulletin boards for that part of town. They announced gladiatorial events or elections, or were decorated with paintings. As depicted here, many balconies even had flower pots or window boxes as we do today. While a wealthy Roman could choose to abide in the city, the true definition of a villa is a countryside estate, so do not confuse the urban setting of the fresco with the reality of what would have been outside Publius Vanius Sinistor's window in the Bosco Real cubiculum. I find it fascinating that such a piece of Roman daily life, culture, and art has even survived through the centuries, not to mention that it is housed right in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, for me to see. Thank you.